Wow, that was very interesting. Just coming, or leaving I should say, from the Carnarvon Space Museum, because in 1964 the Carnarvon Space Station was started to be built by NASA, and it was decommissioned in 1975, and it was, at the time, it was Australia's largest satellite dish, and of course it's famous for helping track the Apollo 11 landing on the moon mission, and it's also responsible for Australia's first live broadcast from Britain to Australia, which I also thought was interesting. Highly worth coming to have a look if you're coming through Carnarvon. It's very interesting. A lot of things have come out of that space mission. Hearing aids came out of that space mission. Obviously advancements in technology. You know, it's amazing to think of what they did, when you think that today's mobile phone has more computing power than the equipment they had in a whole room. Yeah, it's just, there's lots of different things you can actually do in the museum, and yeah, just really found it very interesting, worth going to see. Okay, bye for now.
Apollo 11, this is Launch Operations Manager. The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
T-minus 3 minutes and counting. T-minus 3, we are go with all elements of the mission at this time. We're on an automatic sequence as the master computer supervises hundreds of events occurring over these last few minutes. T-minus 2 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. The members of the launch team here in the control center monitoring a number of what we call red line values. These are tolerances we don't want to go above and below in temperatures and pressures. They're standing by to call out any deviations from our plans. 2 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. We're still go on Apollo 11 at this time. The vehicle starting to pressurize as far as the propellant tanks are concerned, and all is still go as we monitor our status for it. 2 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. The target for the Apollo 11 astronauts, the moon at liftoff, will be at a distance of 218,096 miles away. We've just passed the 2-minute mark in the countdown. T-minus 1 minute, 54 seconds and counting. Our status board indicates that the oxidizer tanks in the second and third stages now have pressurized. We continue to build up pressure in all 3 stages here at the last minute to prepare it for liftoff. T-minus 1 minute, 35 seconds on the Apollo mission, the flight to land of the first men on the moon. All indications coming in to the control center at this time indicate we are go. 1 minute, 25 seconds and counting. Our status board indicates the third stage completely pressurized. 80-second mark has now been passed. We'll go on full internal power at the 50-second mark in the countdown. Guidance system goes on internal at 17 seconds, leading up to the ignition sequence at 8.9 seconds. We're approaching the 60-second mark on the Apollo 11 mission. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. We passed T-minus 60. 55 seconds and counting. Neil Armstrong just reported back it's been a real smooth countdown. We passed the 50-second mark. Power transfer is complete. We're on internal power with the launch vehicle at this time. 40 seconds away from the Apollo 11 liftoff. All the second stage tanks now pressurized. 35 seconds and counting. We are still go with Apollo 11. 30 seconds and counting. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 25 seconds. 20 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Clear the power. Power clear.
I think we have a roll program.
Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on proper heading.
Flight plan 0. Flight plan safety is nominal. Roll is complete and pitch is program. Roger, roll, roger, pitch.
Takes 30 seconds.
Stand by for 1 Bravo. Mark, 1 Bravo. Roger, we confirm. Second plane step. Roger. Tower gone. Tower down, Adam.
Neil Armstrong confirming aboard the engine skirt separation and the launch escape tower separation.
11 Houston, you are go at 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. That was very good.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Every
You
kid's
can't go to sleep with them motor sleep.
no, every kid's dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Leading edge, where these mobile phones today's got more computing capacity than what we had back then.
Working at the tracking station gave me a passion for science. So I went to university and got a science degree in computers. And I really believe that working at the tracking station has enriched my life.
It was our first network simulation for the Apollo missions. And suddenly over the Houston network, because we could hear it but we couldn't speak on it, we heard fire, fire, fire in the spacecraft. And sort of thing that was always done during simulations. And we got the bad news that they all died virtually instantaneously. I guess having been involved with Gemini so much, plus the applied simulations, and being in an operations area where I was frequently in contact with Houston while we were preparing things, I guess it felt like family. And shock isn't really the word to describe it. Anyway, the program was shut down virtually for nearly 18 months before they carried on, because there were obviously so many things that had to be changed to prevent the possibility of it ever happening again under any circumstances. But as I say, for the people there, it was just like losing family. And even now, I have nightmares about it.
I decided to put up for council, and it was quite funny because I was just thinking of being a councillor. And I got beat. Only by a few votes, actually, by another hotel keeper in town who'd been there a bit longer, a nice bloke. Anyway, having learned that lesson, I waited until the next year and decided to contest the mayoral election. And of course, just prior to that election, a couple of Americans had walked into town and gone to the council when I was not the member or the mayor, and said, listen, you know, this is about as far west as you can get on where there's a township in Australia, and we want to build a tracking station. Anyway, to the credit of the previous mayor, they had commenced negotiations, but then on election I inherited the whole outfit.
Well, range and range rate, primarily, as I said, was to measure the distance of satellites in lunar orbit and beyond. But one of the other functions that range and range rate performed leading up to Apollo was a series called BioSat. In other words, what they were doing is experimenting with and putting, well, initially insects and then mice and rats and ultimately a monkey, a rhesus monkey, to check the effect that space travel had on animals before they put humans up there. You may remember that the Russians used a dog, did they not, called Laika, and Laika sadly died in orbit. And unfortunately the same thing happened with the monkey. We were called up to the station one evening. It was an emergency situation. The monkey had pulled all its probes off, and it was suffering from hypothermia and all this type of thing, probably traumatised, I would think. Anyway, the monkey sadly died, but you know, we did get it down. So that was a rather unusual event, I suppose you could say.
It was certainly the best job I've had in my life, to include the university lecturing or Quintessential. This was absolutely the best job, and we're working on the thin edge of the technology, of worldwide technology, and the spin-off to the rest of the world were enormous in terms of technology. One with hearing aids, which are a direct spin-off from the NASA technology, militarization and so forth.
By the end of the Apollo mission, we were tracking 5-6 ground stations on the moon that were transmitting, LSAT programs were transmitting data from the moon to Earth, and there were times when there weren't enough stations to cover all of those. Couldn't record 6 of them with only 2 or 3 stations for them. And my senior university engineer had worked out a way where you could use some of the redundancy in the spacecraft in the station receiving equipment to support another link. So in the end we were able to support all 6 LSAT stations from, if there were 2 stations simultaneously supporting, then could be supported.
When you think about what Carnarvon was, it represented a small town, but once the tracking station came to that town, it put Carnarvon on the map because of the magnitude of the tracking station. It was a really big establishment. NASA obviously poured all their money into the Carnarvon tracking station. I think it was the 2nd biggest in the world, outside of America, and it grew in in size. When I got there, I think it was about 50 staff or something like that. I think about 180 it got up to. So yeah, and then all the engineers, technicians, even the professors and physicists, all those sort of people working there. And then of course you had all the Apollo support crew that came across and did simulations, and it was awe-inspiring, so at least as a young boy, it certainly blew me away how we'd gone from a Perth domain into a outback country town called Carnarvon, but such a job that was unbelievably good. Unbelievable for a young boy. That was, to me, was the ultimate.
The system was designed to receive the spacecraft telemetry signals shortly after launch.
Say a few words about that and the training station here. Incidentally, we're talking about a cold morning here. Well, it's getting hotter and hotter as we stand here, and it's well over in the high 70s Fahrenheit here. So as you can see, it is quite warm, so we don't have to deal with the cold over there. Now I'll Frank just to tell you a little bit about his work. Well, training station, we're getting all ready for the event in the workshop. We've been doing a number of tests, and things seem to be going fairly well. We hope that when the three main capsules get off, it'll go as well as the last Gemini series. Well, thank you very much indeed, Frank Vincent, and also Pauline Vincent, love officers of Vincent Joanne here. And perhaps, Kim, we could pass on now to the Gillen family. We've got them lined up there, because here in London, we've got Mr. Gillen, and also Mrs. Winnie Gillen, and Mrs. Joan McCall. And Joan has brought with her to the studio a little child that she'd perhaps like to introduce Joan.
Hello, dear. Hello, Joe. It's lovely to hear you speaking. Good. I brought Joanne to see you.
I'm sorry, we didn't just get that again. Can you repeat that?
I brought Joanne to see you.
You're on.
Oh, really? No, Auntie.
Good. That's Joan McCall talking with Vincent at the moment. We're not seeing you very well, so we can hear you still, fortunately. And Joan has brought Joanne, who is 9 weeks old and is sitting on her mother's knee here, fast asleep with her. Now, Mr. Gillen, have you got anything that you want to ask your son, Alan? How are you getting on? Did you hear that, Alan? Hello there, how are you going on? Hey. You will. How do you like the boys? Do you think Alan's grown a bit? Well, at the moment, Alan, just well explanation here, unfortunately we've lost pictures of Carnarvon now, but when we go on inbound, so we just treated the straight down interview, and we can't see the boys, but we'd love to know how they are getting on, because your father just said how they're all getting on. Oh, the boys are getting on very well, they're doing exceedingly well at school, and they're pretty good. I wonder if Stephen would like to say hello to Grandma and Grandpa.
Hi. Hello. Hello, Steve. Hello, Susan. Hello, Gemma. It's nice weather here. You'll be able to tell it's awfully hot. It's awfully cold here, Steve.
Has there been any news in the Gillen family from this end since you last spoke to each other? Anything that you were able to know in Australia?
Oh, thank you for that, actually.
Orion is getting ready to launch. My name is Kelly Smith, and I work on navigation and guidance for Orion. Orion is NASA's next-generation spacecraft. Built with versatility in mind, it can take astronauts deeper into space than they've ever gone before, to an asteroid or even onto Mars. For these missions, Orion has to be one tough spacecraft, withstanding high speeds, searing temperatures, and extreme radiation. Before we can send astronauts into space on Orion, we have to test all of the systems. And there's only one way to know if we got it right. Fly it in space. For Orion's first flight, no astronauts will be aboard. The spacecraft is loaded with sensors to record and measure all aspects of the flight in every detail. It all begins with launch, aboard a Delta IV Heavy rocket.
Armstrong is on the move. Neil Armstrong, 38-year-old American, standing on the surface of the moon. On this July 20th, 1969.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. That looks beautiful, clear now. It has a such beauty all its own. It's like in the high desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here. Beautiful, beautiful. Isn't that something? I ain't never complained out here. I think this is a later. Tranquility Base, unit, guidance towards foundation, is ping, and you're cleared for takeoff. Roger, understand. We're number one on the runway. 7, 6, 5, moving on past it. Very good. Very quiet ride.
The two antennae adjacent to the USB antenna were part of a trial scanner link to Geraldton, installed in an attempt to improve ground communications reliability. It was essential for Carnarvon Tracking Station to have more reliable communications for
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Alright, so hot stage is going to be the next thing coming up. First, we're going to see the booster's engines start to shut down. All but 3. We're going to do what's called most engines cut off instead of main engine cut off, because 3 are going to keep going. And then we're going to see the engines on shipping night. One of the most gorgeous things I've ever seen in my entire life. Coming up on hot staging next. Most engines cut off.
Stage separation. Booster
Stage separation. Hot stage separation confirmed. Ship under its own power. I'm seeing 6 out of 6 Raptors lit. Hopefully I got a booster on the way back to me. I'm going to send this to you guys in Hawthorne. We did hear that the tower is go for catch, so that was one of the big criteria we were looking for.
It's launched from just, 5 minutes ago.
Starship on nominal.
Good morning, Discovery. Discovery. Congratulations.
The SMU is flown by firing thrusters, using their hands to get moved forward and back, left and right, and up and down. Take a moment to locate the controls and note how they operate.
Discovery. Congratulations.
Make contact.
Have 5 minutes before sunset, so we'd like you to complete the wrap within 2 minutes 15 seconds. You have to go for the capture. Good luck.
Good morning.
Use the optical controls of the grappling fixture. Use the up control to line up with the grappling fixture. Oops, sorry, but you ran out of fuel. On the plus side, you'll have lots of time to vent while you wait for rescue. Nice try. Thanks for that.
In Discovery, congratulations on your first milestone. Good morning, Discovery. Good morning, Discovery. Congratulations on your first milestone. Good morning, Discovery. Good morning, Discovery.
Orion, our state-of-the-art spacecraft, is designed to take crews into deep space, and then once their work is done, to safely bring them back home. Sometimes folks ask me, what do you think the next 60 years has in store? I don't know all of the destinations that we will visit, the mysteries that we will solve, the places that we will leave footprints again.
And we want to see what's out there. We want to see how it works. We want to go explore. There's always this desire to learn more, to satisfy that inquisitive nature. Let's go do it.
We have one of the most challenging assignments that has ever been given to modern man. Expansion of human knowledge about space.
We've been assigned the mission of launching a scientific Earth satellite.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fine command. Fine command.
Development and operation of vehicles capable of carrying instruments and man through space.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Long-range studies of the benefits of using aeronautical and space activities for peaceful and scientific purposes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff in a new era of American space exploration.
Preservation of the role of the United States as a leader in aeronautical and space science and technology. We have a mighty big job to do. Ignition sequence start.
We finally come to the day, the moment. The trajectory had been wrong. They were targeted into this inhospitable place. Then they had to fly over this area at a high forward velocity, then pitch up to slow down so that kill that forward velocity, and then start down like a helicopter.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The landing to me was a great celebration. We had won the race. The nation was almost euphoric.
The knowledge that we gain about the origin and the evolution of the moon is one of these days going to help us right here on Earth. Of course, it's only one area, but I believe it's an important area, and I guess I'm betting a lot on it.
So the space station, it's more than 1 million pounds. It's as big as 2 football fields. You are not going to bring that up in one single lift. So we had to bring up the space station in parts and assembly. The space shuttle was instrumental to bringing up at least the American side of that. It was more than 40 missions over about 13 years to assemble all those parts of the space station.
And so human spaceflight is really interesting because we do adapt really quickly to the environment. How quickly it felt natural to float around. How quickly it felt normal to look out the window and see the Earth go by.
Human beings are built to be able to adapt to weightlessness, and that allows us to go do that exploration. And so we have improved the exercise equipment, we improved the diet, the vitamins. I mean, came back so strong that physically I was actually stronger than when I left, when I did a physical fitness test when we got back. It gives me great hope that, we have similar type of equipment on our long duration space vehicles. We're going to show up on Mars and be ready to work the minute we get there.
The Mercury astronauts, when they get introduced, immediately coalesce as sort of the heroes. The press conference that NASA had goes crazy. The astronauts become instant celebrities. They sort of look like knights in armor in some ways, going out there to defend the honor of the United States.
3, 2, 1, 0, liftoff. Roger, liftoff, and the clock is started.
I remember feeling
launches into Earth orbit, Orion will jettison its launch and abort system. The abort system is a safety feature designed to pull Orion and its crew out of danger if there were a problem with the rocket during ascent. Orion's journey is just beginning. As the spacecraft on the upper stage begin their first lap around Earth, Mission Control in Houston is monitoring the progress of the flight. Orion's over 100 miles up, going about 17,000 miles per hour. Just as it passes over the Indian Ocean, we lose communication. This is expected. The communications link we have through satellites to Orion is momentarily lost, but Orion continues to receive and process data. Its computers can handle 480 million instructions per second. Imagine you are traveling with Orion as the flight test continues. One orbit completed. Time to go. The upper stage of the rocket fires again.
A moment of exhilaration because, of course, I'd been training for 2 years, and in fact, I was more than ready for a liftoff to occur, and was quite delighted with the fact it did occur, and occurred so smoothly.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous.
NASA has been absolutely critical to improving the knowledge of all humankind. 12 humans walked on the surface of the moon, which is a stunning achievement, and we are still the only country ever to have done that. We're going to go back to the moon, and we're going to take what we learned there, and we're going to go to Mars.
To get to Mars, it's about a 6-month journey. And as an operator, I would be really, really happy if we could test out our operations and our equipment in our backyard. The moon's only 3 days away. The moon is the next step.
NASA has been absolutely critical to improving the knowledge of all humankind. 12 humans walked on...
Orion, our state-of-the-art spacecraft, is designed to take crews into deep space. And then once they're working
You're down 180, 50,
180.
perhaps easier with the simulations for 160 that we performed in various simulations on the ground. The methane engine did not leave a crater of any size. It had about 1 foot clearance on the ground. I can see some evidence of fluid emanating from beneath that engine, but very insignificant amount. Here you go, we're reading your last clear. We're going to take some pictures and take a few samples. Interesting, it's a very soft surface, but here and there where I was looking at interesting samples, collectors are running to very hard surface, but it appears to be very cohesive material of the same sort. Trying to get a rock in here. That's beautiful, man. And it's so beauty all in all. It's under the hot desert of the United States. It's different, but it's very pretty out here. Put in the pocket? Yeah, we're down. Got it? No, wait, please. There you go. And if they were able to do the pocket, my positivity is 81%. I have no flags and I'm in minimum flow. Okay, I got the cameras on in 1 frame a second. Good, ready for me to come on? And just stand by a second, I'll move this over the handrail. Some of these small depressions through the upper surface of the soil, and about 5 or 6 inches of bay, it breaks loose and moves as if it were caked on the surface, when in fact it really isn't. Columbia, this is Houston, reading you loud, clear, over. Roger, the EVA is progressing beautifully. They're setting up the flag now. Great. I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene. How is the quality of the TV? Oh, it's beautiful, Mike, really is. They got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on all of it. Beautiful, just beautiful. Neil and Buzz, the President of the United States is in his office now and would like to say a few words to you, over. That would be honored. Go ahead, Mr. President, this is Houston out. Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House.
And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made for the White House. I just can't tell you how proud we all are of what you have done. For every American, this has to be the proudest day of our lives. And for people all over the world, because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the sea of tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one. One in their pride in what you have done, and one in our prayers that you will return safely to earth.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor and privilege for us to be here representing
flag. The shape of the descent stage is somewhat of an octagon. Here's what the structure looks like underneath. Inside, there were 5 box-shaped compartments. The center one contained the descent engine, which was used for landing on the moon. In order to light this engine up, we'll need 2 oxidizer tanks and 2 fuel tanks. They both feed right into the engine. This gives us the propulsion we'll need to safely land on the moon. These outer areas are where they stored more equipment. They called them quadrants, so this was quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quadrant 1 was for general storage. For the last 3 Apollo missions, there was the lunar roving vehicle packed inside of here. Once on the surface, it was unpacked and ready for use. This allowed them to explore much further from the lunar module. Quadrant 2 contained a water tank, and then below here was the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments Package, or ALSEP, which basically contains several science experiments for them to perform. Quadrant 3 had another helium tank, oxygen tank, and on a few missions it carried retroreflectors, which is a special kind of mirror. They were left behind on the surface of the moon, and they allow scientists, even today, to bounce laser light from the Earth to the moon and back. Quadrant 4 contained the Modularized Equipment Stowage Assembly, or MESA, and if you've ever wondered how we recorded those first few steps on the moon, there's a camera here that points right towards the ladder. The landing legs were attached on the main structure. The covering on the outside was made out of mylar, which looks like gold tinfoil. They used it because it was lightweight, and it made sure that the inside temperature didn't get too hot or too cold. This is the platform that leads to the ladder, and these are the plume deflectors. They protected the spacecraft from the thrusters on the ascent stage. If we remove the cover, you can see some of the machinery underneath. Let's start with the main structure. This is the crew compartment, the midsection, and the aft equipment bay. Both the crew compartment and the midsection were normally pressurized, which means that they can safely take off their spacesuits. The crew compartment didn't have a lot of room. Controls were mostly in the front, and then there's 2 windows to look outside at the surface of the moon. The commander was on the left, and the LEM pilot was on the right. Remember that the 3rd astronaut was still orbiting the moon in the CSM. After landing, this hatch is for the astronauts to leave the cabin and start their climb down the ladder. In the midsection, you'll find more equipment, and this cover, which protected the ascent engine. And of course, the tunnel to dock with the command module, once back in lunar orbit. The aft equipment bay has more oxygen and helium tanks, as well as other electronics for the LEM. There's a fuel tank here and a smaller oxidizer tank here. This is the reason that we have these bulges on the side here. Both of these tanks feed right into the ascent engine, which was used to blast off the surface of the moon. On the outside is the Reaction Control System, or RCS. It's an arrangement of 16 thrusters in groups of 4. It was powered by fuel and oxidizer tanks on the side here. During the flight, these thrusters could be used to maneuver the LEM. The plume deflectors help redirect the exhaust to protect the descent stage. On the outside were several antennas to let them communicate with mission control back on Earth. So much effort went into building each lunar module. What's sad here is that they could only be used once. Most of the descent stages are peacefully sitting on the moon, and most of the ascent stages crashed into the moon after they were discarded in lunar orbit. A few lunar modules never got the chance to fly in space. They are now located in museums along the east coast of the United States.